and this is a question that I get asked a lot by my clients, especially early on in conversations that I have with them, when they're maybe still prospects. I would say I'm a big advocate of real estate investing, which I think for most people when talking to me is something that catches them off guard, and that's just, I guess, more about the way the industry of financial advisors has, I think, in a way been portrayed in a lot of ways. But my passion for real estate dates back to many years. I come from a family that was very predominant in real estate, residential real estate, and I've been very fortunate to see the financial impact that real estate can create from a wealth perspective. And today, obviously, working a lot closer with people in their 60s and their 70s, there is not one individual or family that I work with that doesn't have a very predominant real estate portfolio that makes up a significant portion of their wealth. Now, why I say this is because most people believe that financial advisors are there to, kind of steer you in the direction of mutual funds,
Other
ETFs,
types of
stocks.
financial products, right? Right, which are
Exactly.
also good products. But it's weird because, well, it's not that it's weird, but there are not a lot of financial advisors that are very geared toward real estate. So I've had this experience myself.
Yeah.
And of course, everyone needs to live somewhere. That's
Yeah.
that's for residential purpose, which is my
Right.
specialty. I am a residential real estate broker. But it's interesting that you would say that you are particularly geared toward real estate, despite the fact that you are a financial advisor. And this is not, and we're talking about real estate investing. We're talking about not something that someone will necessarily live in, although
Right.
they could live in it should they
Mhm.
need to, because it is a dwelling. But in your case, it's just not common to see a financial advisor give this kind of advice to their clients. So that's what you're pretty much saying.
Exactly. And obviously, giving advice happens, after a certain amount of,
Time.
assessment and questions that are asked. And, you're really trying to determine where people may or may not be better off. And,
So what is a
real
person
estate investing
to
from an income perspective is a very powerful tool that I believe strongly in. And I highly recommend for individuals that fit the criteria that I suppose will be necessary to be comfortable in investing in real estate. Some people don't want to be hands-on. Some people don't want to manage that type of project. Some people don't want to manage that type of investment. Some people really like saying, well, I'm going to park my money in a investment account and I'm going to let that money grow.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
there's no right or wrong answer, but I think why people are taken aback is that financial professionals are directly remunerated based on investments and recommending investments. So I'm here saying, well, yes, in a way, my salary is directly related to me making specific types of recommendations, but I'm actually going in a completely opposite direction, which has no bearing on my salary, nor does it compensate me in any way. But it's really understanding that there are other tools and other ways to create wealth. And I think there's, real estate investing is a unique asset class that you can't emulate with other investment vehicles because of the capital gains that you have, the cash flow that it creates, and also the obviously ultimately the tax deductions that it can create as well. So it's a very unique asset class, and I think maybe it's a little bit of a run-on sentence here that I'm giving, but
It's
all that to say
interesting
that.
that you'll say that you'll not necessarily recommend the products that will directly pay you. So
Mhm.
that's what I also meant as being very unique in your case, is that we're taking
Yeah,
the time now to talk about real estate investing,
yeah,
and yet it's not something that you're going to directly benefit from, but you do recommend real estate investing as long as the person is, I guess, taken on by a real estate professional, but
very
that can
much
help
so.
guide them as well.
Yes.
And even if the person, in my case, if ever a client is like, no, I kind of know what I'm doing, no problem. Really good. I'm really proud of them. I'm just like, fantastic. Okay, what do you need me for? You need advice? No problem. Call me anytime. But
Right.
they want to handle the rental. They want to handle, maybe searching for the property. But if they need me to sell, if they need me to rent, if they need me, well, I'm there, but I'm still going to give them guidance for sure, But I'm not going to necessarily be paid for my advice, but I'm never going to close the door because it's my pleasure. I can talk about this for ages,
Yeah.
forever.
And that's for sure. And I think that's why we've always gotten along so well, is that it's passion for our industry, it's passion for the work that we do, it's passion of taking care of clients the right way. And it's just ultimately, I think that long term creates a lot more profound relationships with your clients. And I know we've talked about this umpteen times, but we're far from being transactionally focused. And I think there's so many entities and individuals out there that they can handle the transactions. And if you want to just be a number and just walk in and walk out kind of thing, fine. But there are people, and I think I stress this, that really want someone that they can build a relationship with and get to know, and feel that they're being listened to, and that they're being guided based on what they're actually talking about. And I joke, but I wear two hats. Being a financial advisor, and I know you joke the same way, but being a financial advisor, a real estate professional, you're wearing that hat, but you flip that one off. How often to put on the psychologist hat and just sit back and listen?
I don't seek it out. Of course I'm there if they need to talk about something, and oftentimes we're faced with very, very difficult decisions, and I can only give them, there's a lot of empathy for whatever advice that I have to give to the people that have to receive and make a decision. In theory, not in theory, but in actuality, I'm really just there giving choices. There's a way to deliver news, like, these are your choices. Make one choice. I don't care what you do. That's not the way that I see it. I do care. Make this choice and maybe this will happen. Make that choice, maybe this will happen. There is no right answer. There's never any right answer. This is life.
Right. Yeah.
But it's not bad news. Sometimes it's great news. Sometimes I get to give the best news. And those are the good days. Those are so much fun. And that's when I call people. And I say, listen, this happened. And now you can celebrate. And sometimes I've had tears on the other end of the line. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, are you crying?
Really, eh? Yeah, because it's and that's such a great point, because real estate, money, it's so emotional, right? We're so driven by our emotions, and that's what I think most people aren't always in tune with, is that we make money-based decisions, for so many reasons that more often than not we're not even really keying in on. And it's our upbringing, it's how we were taught to think about money, how we were exposed to money.
Absolutely. Also the point in our lives where we are. It's not just anybody that can just get into real estate investing and just be like, well, I'm just going to blow this amount. I've got this amount of down payment. We're actually very fortunate to work with people that may have this option. But speaking of that, let's get into what do we do to plan? What do we do? What does somebody have to do to plan?
It's a great question. And I think first and foremost, you really need to sit down and determine your priorities, right? Just really, not necessarily assume that a specific type of investment is for you, but really understand it, break it apart, unwrap it, so to speak, and dissect that type of investment. So in getting ready to invest in anything, you're always going to want to do a complete financial snapshot of really understanding where you are, we'll say, today in your financial well-being, so to speak. So really taking a picture of everything that you own versus everything that you owe, because sometimes you might owe money, credit card debts, personal lines of credit. You might have some car debt that's outstanding that you may want to, and it may certainly be more beneficial to address that side of the planning before saying, well, I'm going to take that money that I do have and do something else with it, right? So there are definitely key steps that you want to respect just from like
It's a net worth statement, right?
Correct. Yeah. I'm referring to is called a net worth statement. So you're essentially doing a snapshot of everything that you own versus everything that you owe. That bottom line, if it's positive, it means you have a net worth of XYZ.
Right, exactly.
Exactly. And if you owe more than you own, then you have a negative net worth, right? Which is really not what we're looking for, but it's not the end of the world if you have it.
In the big picture,
Yep.
correct me if I'm wrong, but in terms of financial investing, or not financial investing, let me rephrase that. In terms of real estate investing, a down payment, for example, because you do need a down payment, doesn't always have to come from the money that you actually have. Like, it doesn't have to come from, right?
Yeah, so
an investment or an RSP or something like that.
for sure. And from, you know, your original question, I think which will tie into that comment is, you know, what can you do to get best prepared to invest is once you've done that snapshot, then you'll look at all the assets that you have. So it might be, you know, personal savings, money that you have in a tax-free savings account. It might be money that you have in an RRSP account. It might be money that you have in a, you know, personal checking or personal savings account. But essentially, we're going to want to look at everything that you have, and different assets will be accessible in different ways, of course. But essentially, if you are looking to invest in real estate, then yes, you're going to have to come up with a down payment to be able to put towards the purchase of said property. Now, whether it's a, you know, cottage that you're buying, whether it's a condo that you're buying, whether it's a duplex, threeplex, fourplex, or if you want to go even larger and go and get into the commercial, you're still going to have to come up with
residential.
We will only talk about the residential. Yes, we will stay on track.
I can only go up to 4.
Perfect. So we will cap it at 4
for now. But I do have a member on my team that does commercial. I just want to say.
There you go. So yes. So being able to set yourself up to prepare that eventual purchase, we're definitely going to be looking for where is that down payment coming from. Now, if you already own a property, so I'll use myself as an example, and I've done this a couple of times now, where the equity, so the equity is the difference between what the value of a property is minus what you owe against the property. So if you have a property, let's say that's worth $1 million, and you have a mortgage of $500,000 on it, but you have an equity of $500,000, right? So you are able to utilize that equity, and this is what we would call leverage. So you would take the equity in an existing property, whether it's a primary residence or a secondary residence or an income property, for example, and you would discuss and plan with a lending institution, whether you're working with a mortgage broker or a bank specifically, and obviously those are discussions that we can facilitate within our professional network. But ultimately, it would be utilizing the equity that you have in said property and putting it towards the down payment of a future property, right?
And then you get another mortgage on the new property that you would have purchased. But I just want to back up a little bit, because you mentioned that someone should contact a mortgage specialist, mortgage specialist bank or a mortgage broker in order to have that discussion. But on the contrary, I feel that they should have that discussion with a financial advisor first.
Yeah.
And then only when they know for a fact that they are ready to take this kind of a leap after the planning process, then I would say, let's go into getting a pre-approval. And also getting that additional mortgage, which is the leveraging portion, which could be in the form of a home equity line of credit, right? That's the term, home equity line of credit, and then
otherwise known as a HELOC, a home equity line of credit.
In Canada, So, okay, just to sum it all up, basically, we need the net worth statement of an individual, so a person, or let's say that person is a corporation. We'll not get into that yet, but the family. You need a down payment to get started on investing, and you need to get a mortgage pre-approval. So you
Correct.
need to be surrounded by professionals, clearly, right?
Correct. And maybe what I would just add to that is you're definitely going to want to do a cash flow statement and essentially understand what your cash flow situation is currently.
True.
And
yeah.
what it will look like in the eventuality that you do take on an extra mortgage. The latter obviously being that you would have income if it's an income generating property. So let's say you already own, and earlier I was giving an example of myself, if you already own a primary residence and you use the equity in that residence to purchase a secondary property, but the secondary property is an income generating property, then depending on the lending institution, they're also going to factor in a percentage of the revenues that are being generated by that rental property as part of income that you would be earning, because you're going to be collecting rent on a monthly basis, and
Right.
that rent is going to be used to offset the expenses that you would have on that property.
To offset the expenses that you have. Yes, as long as the
Yep.
income that you're generating from that property is high enough in order to cover your mortgage income and your mortgage and taxes, and any kind of maintenance that you need to do over the years, and then the rest of it. Oh well, hey, that would be phenomenal if somebody can find a property like that, and they exist. I think that they do still exist, even in the Montreal.
They definitely do.
Yeah,
they definitely do.
Montreal area. I'm positive they exist. Actually, it's very interesting. Very, very interesting.
And that's what we would refer to as a property that is cash flow positive. So essentially, that once you've collected all your rent from your renters, and you've paid all your expenses, so you've paid your mortgage, you've paid your taxes, you've paid your insurance, whether you pay, electricity, so your hydro and other types of things of that nature, that's going to be up to obviously the owner of the property. But once all your base expenses are paid, if there is money left over from the rent that is being collected, well, that means you have money coming in, right? You're cash flow positive. Now, if at the end of the month there's a shortfall and you need to inject $200, $300, $400, $500, whatever it may be, into the said property to cover any deficit that might exist because the rents aren't able to cover all your expenses, that's a different scenario, and obviously we have to factor that and assess that differently. But yes, I think today in today's market,
there is still value in that for various reasons, and that could be an up and coming neighborhood. That could be, planned renovations in the future that would turn the asset into something that can potentially really generate a lot more revenue. So there are different reasons for investing in those types of even cash flow negative properties, because there's a lot that can be invested into it to bring it up to a point where when you do end up selling it, there is a big revenue that gets created. And even, we haven't talked about capital gains and taxes and that kind of thing, but definitely that's for another conversation. But it is possible. Well, it's not a bad investment if you're a cash flow.
For sure. Okay. So I hope whoever is listening is enjoying this, has enjoyed it, has appreciated the discussion so far, and we look forward to hosting you in another week from now.
Sounds good.
All right. Chris, thank you so much for your time. Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure.
Great speaking with you. Thanks for enjoying a delicious glass of wine with me.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you.